guys, welcome to my channel. My name's Alisha and today I'm coming to you with my March TBR. So this is all the books that I'm hoping to read in March, and you know, February was a pretty good reading month surprisingly for me. Despite being, you know, the shortest month in the year, I ended up reading a lot of books and I read quite a few that were actually on my TBR, which is usually my aim, but because I am sort of more of a mood reader, it doesn't always end up happening that I, read all the books on my TBR. But I am feeling good about this upcoming TBR and all of these books, and let's get into them. So first up, I have a book that I am pretty excited to read, and that is Good Rich People by Eliza Jane Brazier. And this is an adult thriller, and it is a new release of 2022, and I am just really excited about it. It has a really great cover, so I love that. And all I really know is that it has to do with like rich people and rich people problems, but it just sounds really exciting and I'm really hoping I like it. This is a book that I've also sort of put on my 5-star predictions, a 5-star watch list, because I just, in terms of like the plot of the book as well as the sort of content, it seems like it could be really fascinating and interesting if done the right way. And I've also heard some nice, good things about this book. So yeah, I'm hoping that I do enjoy it. So this book is about a husband and a wife who sort of are just kind of too rich for their own good and are pretty bored, it would seem, because they kind of have this game where they bring in people to live in their guest house and they basically ruin their lives. And so we're following our main character named Demi, who has always felt like the odds are stacked against her. And at the end of her rope, she seizes a risky opportunity to take over another person's life and unwittingly becomes the subject of the upstairs couple's wicked entertainment. So we're following Demi as she, I guess, moves into this guest house that this husband and wife are basically ready to ruin her life. And I'm guessing, Demi somehow works around that maybe, or, maybe she succumbs to that and her life does get ruined. But yeah, that just sounds really fascinating and actually really intriguing. So if done right, I feel like this could be a really fun time. So next I have another thriller that I have heard so many great things about, and that is Razorblade Tears by S.A. Cosby. So this is a pretty popular book. I feel like a lot of people have been reading it and a lot of people have been loving it. And I think that, I'm hoping that the thriller aspect is really great, but I've also, based on what this book is about, am hoping that the message and the themes of this book also, I'm pretty prepared for them to shine through. So basically this is following two fathers whose sons were in a relationship and they were, I believe, killed. And I think they were killed for being gay. And both of these fathers during their son's lifetime weren't really supportive of this relationship. But now that they have been killed, they have both decided to team up and try to kind of avenge their son's deaths and figure out who did it. And so that's definitely, I feel like this is, a really heavy topic. And I've heard this book actually is really good in terms of the thriller and all of the other parts of the book. So I'm really excited to read this. I have Hench by Natalie Zena Walscotts, and I am really excited about this book. This is basically an anti-hero superhero story, and we are following a girl who kind of works for the villains, and she's just a cog in the system. And one day on one of her assignments working for this villain, she basically gets taken down by the superhero, but as this happens, she sees kind of the destruction that these heroes cause when they're trying to save the day. And so we're sort of following her as she comes to terms, I guess, with how superheroes aren't always doing what's best for like civilians and stuff. Just based on the premise, this really reminds me of the TV show The Boys, and I have seen the first season of the show and I absolutely loved it. I just really like the take on these typical popular superhero stories where no matter what, the superhero comes in, swoops in, and saves the day. And usually, obviously they're trying to beat the supervillain, and that is the main person that they're trying to defeat, right? But obviously, even in superhero shows and movies and comics and everything, there are so many civilian stories that we don't really care about and we don't even think about. because we just care about, you know, the hero beating the villain. But in reality, obviously not reality because it's not real, but if this were real, in reality, there would be so many casualties as these heroes and villains fight each other. And so that's kind of what The Boys looks at, because it kind of takes this like capitalistic view on what superheroes could be in like the modern day. And I feel like this book is kind of on that end, taking this view that maybe the heroes aren't always doing what's best, or like they're not always thinking of the best interests of the people that they're trying to save. So I just think that that just sounds really interesting and is a really cool concept. Now, I haven't heard a lot of things about this book. I kind of just heard about this on a whim and like thought it was interesting, so decided to pick it up. But yeah, I haven't heard a lot of people reviewing it or talking about it, so I don't know if that bodes well for it or not, but I'm hoping I do like it because I really do like the concept. Next, I have a romance book, and that is After Age Eve Brown by Talia Hibbert. And so this is the third book in the Brown Sisters trilogy. I have read the first two, Get a Life and Take a Hint, Danny Brown. Get a Life, Chloe Brown, and Take a Hint, Danny Brown. And I really like the second book, Take a Hint, Danny Brown. Didn't love the first book, but I do love the series enough and like these sisters enough to obviously want to read the third book. And Eve Brown as a character in the first two books was definitely interesting. She's a bit, I guess, more of a free spirit and I guess maybe a little easygoing and things like that. And so she basically ends up going to, I think, this B&B, and she starts this romance with the B&B owner, but it's a rocky start. So I think this is like enemies to lovers or something. It says on the back, the flightiest Brown sister crashes into the life of an uptight B&B owner and has him falling hard, literally. So yeah, I mean, as typical Talia Hibbert, you know, I'm expecting this to be funny and charismatic and charming, and I mean, I'm hoping I fall in love with Eve Brown, our last sister, and the story and everything. So yeah, really excited about this one. So then I have a fantasy book, a YA fantasy, and that is Daughter of Smoke and Bone by Laini Taylor. So Laini Taylor wrote my favorite YA fantasy ever, and that was Strange the Dreamer. And I have been meaning to pick this book up for so long because this book actually came out before Strange the Dreamer. And I have heard quite a few really good things about this book, and I know I absolutely love Laini Taylor's writing, so I'm expecting, you know, really great kind of whimsical writing with a really unique plot and fantasy world. But I have to say, I don't really know anything about this book. All I know is kind of what it says on the back, which is, this is a sweeping and gorgeously written modern fantasy about a forbidden love, an ancient and epic battle, and hope for a world remade. So I'm kind of fine going into this blind because I think that'll make it more fun, but I do think that this is a bit of a chosen one story, and our main girl is this kind of badass character. So if that is true, I am very excited to read about it. Then next I have Finlay Donovan Knocks Him Dead by Al Casamano, and this is the second book in the Finlay Donovan series, I guess. This is the first one with Finlay Donovan is Killing It, and I read that last year, absolutely loved it. It was one of the most, you know, fun and funny mystery thriller books I've ever read, and it was just a really good time. So, and it also ended on a really great cliffhanger, like at the very end of the book, so I'm really interested to see kind of what direction the second book goes in. I have to say, with this being recently released, I have heard quite a few people talking about it, and a lot of people are saying that it's not as good as the first book. And while, I mean, I think that is, it happens, you know, the second book doesn't always live up to the first book's greatness. So I definitely think I could still really like it. I just might not like it as much as the first one, which is fine. You know, I still really want to read it, and I'm really excited for it. Then next I have a romance book, and that is Dating Dr. Dill by Nisha Sharma. So this is a book that basically follows this TV doctor who meets this woman, and he has to, for some reason, make her fall in love with him. And she, on the other hand, is very against love and, you know, doesn't necessarily want to fall in love. So I feel like this is definitely going to be a bit of an enemies to lovers situation, which is one of my favorite tropes. So love to see it. And then we also have great South Asian representation in romance, and I love to see that. So I've been really excited about this book, so I'm really excited to read it. And then next I have All My Rage by Saba Tahir. So this is Saba Tahir's first contemporary book, and if you've read the An Ember in the Ashes series, then this is kind of her first book away from that series. So I have read the first book in that series, and although I didn't like love it, like it wasn't 5 stars for me, I definitely really loved her writing style. And I know this book follows basically a Pakistani family, I believe, immigrating to America, and we're kind of following two timelines. So first timeline, we're following, I believe, the parents of the characters and like their time in Pakistan, and then as they immigrated to America. And then we're also following another timeline who I believe are the children or maybe like the grandchildren of the first timeline's characters, and then we're following them as they are, you know, second generation immigrants in America. And so as a Pakistani myself and as a second generation immigrant, I definitely am really looking forward to this book and looking forward to just Saba Tahir and her storytelling and her writing and her characters, because I definitely love all of that stuff. I also heard that this book has made people cry and is like really emotional. So, you know, I'm feeling like if some tears come, they come. I'm ready for it. And then lastly, I have a nonfiction book called They Said That This Would Be Fun, I believe, by Eternity Martise. And this is a book that I think is going to be really important and really powerful. Basically, this is a memoir about this girl who went to a university in Canada, Western University, and that university is like really predominantly white, and she is a Black girl. And so coming into this university, she basically, it's talking about her dealing with racism and just this experience of coming to this predominantly white, you know, institution and having to deal with people looking down on her, people like using racial slurs against her, and just kind of like not realizing that this university experience is not what she thought it would be. It's not what has been in the movies, and pretty much because of her race, you know, people are treating her differently and looking at her differently, and, you know, changing this experience to what it really shouldn't be, because a lot of mostly white people don't have to deal with these things when they first enter a new institution. And so I definitely really wanted to pick this up because I am Canadian myself, and I actually have relatives who have gone to Western University, and obviously as a person of color and my relatives who went there were also people of color, you know, this is a really important topic. And I think, honestly speaking, racism isn't really highlighted as it is in America here in Canada. And, you know, I love Canada and I'm really proud to be Canadian, but we do have a lot of problems. And I think a book like this, you know, really touches on a personal experience that a lot of kids have when they enter university, because a lot of these universities are pretty white and, you know, deal with the same things that American institutions deal with in a way. So I'm hoping that this kind of sheds light on a very important issue, obviously being racism in these institutions and in Canada on a larger scale. So yeah, those are all of the books I have on my TBR for March, and like I said, I'm really hoping to love all of these, and I'm really hoping to actually read all of these, but who knows what'll happen. March is also a really busy month for me. I have like all of my family's birthdays as well as mine in March, so I don't know how much reading I'll even be able to get done this month, but yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. And thank you guys so much for watching this video. I will see you next time.